Are you having a hard time getting listeners to your podcast? Is the bulk of your time spent on content creation, leaving you very little time for marketing or promotion? If you answered yes to either of those questions, then you should do what I did and reach out to Pod Boost Hub on Upwork. Pod Boost Hub brings you 100% organic promotion services. Pod Boost works around your budget and your needs. Contact them today on Upwork or even on Facebook. Pod Boost Hub. Your content, your audience, their responsibility. Hey there, listeners. Are you ready to elevate your energy game? Let me introduce you to Dubby, the energy drink brand on a mission to help you be better. Dubby is designed to give you the boost you need without the jitters or crashes that accompany many of the drinks supplied by Big Energy. Their drinks are sugar-free, calorie-free, and free from artificial colors or dyes. They launched with just one flavor, but thanks to the support of their loyal customers, they've grown to offer over 15 unique custom-made flavors. So if you're looking for a clean, delicious energy boost that helps you power through your day, look no further than Dubby. Join the movement and experience the difference for yourself. Visit WGG and use the code WW1POD for a 10% discount on your order. Remember, with Dubby, it's all about being better, one sip at a time. Alright, bills are paid. Let's get on with the show. I'm Henny B, and welcome to the World War I Stories podcast, where history comes alive through the voices of those who lived it. Some scenes in these stories may be too graphic for sensitive listeners, so listener discretion is advised. Today's episode, Innocence Runs. Cemil sat cross-legged on the worn rug near the fire, pretending to whittle a stick. He wasn't really carving anything, just dragging the blade down the wood, slow and even. It gave him something to do with his hands while he listened. His father was speaking in the other room. The door was open, and Cemil could hear every word. "You'll need to keep the goats penned early. Don't let them near the river this month. Too many jackals," Baba said. His voice was steady, like it always was, but lower than usual. "And make sure the girls sleep in the big room, by the wall. If the rains come hard, the roof above the back room still leaks." His mother didn't say much. She had said her piece 3 days ago when the officers came. They had a list, and his father's name was on it. She had complained at first. Why was he being called back into duty? He had served the empire long enough, and why now? Cemil imagined her now sitting quietly, folding clothes into the satchel with hard, careful hands. "You'll be gone long?" one of the younger cousins had asked. "Long enough," his father had replied. Cemil hadn't asked anything, not out loud. He stared at the stick in his hand, thought about the wagon coming tomorrow morning, thought about the folded blanket he'd already hidden behind the haystack, about the bread wrapped in a scarf under his bed. He wasn't going to stay behind. He didn't know what Gallipoli was, only that it was far, and his father would be there. And that was enough. From the other room, his father's voice softened. "Tell Cemil to watch the oxen when they're at pasture. He's the only one they listen to." Cemil stopped whittling. He wanted to step into the doorway and say, "But I won't be here." Instead, he stood quietly, walked past the fire, and went outside. The wind had picked up. It tugged at the hem of his tunic, whistled low through the olive trees beyond the yard. He looked up at the stars, so many it made his head swim, and thought about the path the wagon would take in the morning, how early he'd need to move, and where he'd hide. Inside, the voices had gone quiet. The last night had begun, and Cemil had already decided he would not let his father go alone. It was still dark when Cemil heard the beat of hooves and the creak of wagon wheels rolling up the path. He moved quickly, tying the scarf of bread at his waist and slipping through the window like he'd practiced. The morning air was cold against his cheeks. the kind of cold that stung but kept him awake. In the barn, the blanket was right where he left it, tucked behind the lowest bale of hay. He slung it over his shoulder and crept towards the front of the house. 2 wagons waited in the road. The first was hitched closest to the steps, where the men stood talking low and serious. His father was among them, adjusting the straps on his satchel. Cemil kept to the shadows. The second wagon sat further back, unattended for the moment, its bed half filled with canvas rolls, bedrolls, and sacks, the kind of wagon used for gear, not people. Cemil darted towards it. He crouched low behind the wheel, heart thumping like a drum, and then, when no one was looking, he scrambled up and slipped beneath a folded tarp near the rear corner. The canvas smelled of dust and old sweat, and it scratched against his cheek as he pulled it up over his shoulders. The voices grew closer. He held his breath. Boots crunched the dirt. Someone muttered about the weight of the rations, then his father's voice, clear and familiar, cut through it all. "Careful with that side. There's glass packed in the bottom." Cemil's pulse roared in his ears. A second later, the wagon shifted with a creak, and his father heaved his satchel up over the side. It landed with a solid thump just inches from Cemil's head. He didn't flinch, didn't breathe. Then came the laughter. A soft grunt from Baba, followed by another man's chuckle. "Still packing like you're marching across Mesopotamia, eh?" "A man likes to be prepared," Baba replied. More footsteps. Then the wagon lurched as others climbed aboard the front. Cemil curled tighter beneath the tarp, clutching the folded blanket to his chest. The canvas pressed down against his back. He shut his eyes and focused on the sound of his father's voice, steady and close. He was in. Now he just had to stay hidden until it was too far to send him home. The wagon rocked and jostled as it moved, each rut in the road thudding through the woods beneath Cemil's ribs. He lay still, tucked beneath the canvas, his body cramped, muscles stiffening. The smells shifted as the hours passed. Hay, sweat, tobacco smoke, and dust. Once the scent of roasted chestnuts wafted through the air as they passed through a village. They picked up more men as the wagon rolled on, some younger, others older than his father. Cemil could hear the shifting voices above him, laughter one hour, silence the next. Stories were exchanged in low tones, talk of past battles, of brothers lost, of rumors of the British and strange Australians landing on distant shores. At one stop, the tarp lifted slightly. A soldier reached in, tossing in a sack of dried figs. Cemil flattened himself against the wagon floor, heart hammering so loud he was sure it would give him away. But the man didn't look down, just dropped the sack and moved on. It was the third day when the wagon finally stopped for longer than a meal or a quick supply check. The air smelled different now, saltier, heavier. The sea. He heard a soldier claim that they were near the coast, at the edge of the Dardanelles. Cemil peeked through a gap in the tarp. He had never been to the sea before. The sight was breathtaking for him. Ships loomed in the harbor, gray, smoke-belching monsters. Soldiers were lining up to board, and just beyond them, an officer was checking lists, barking names. Cemil's breath caught. He could run now, try to slip away. But he didn't. He stayed still. A few moments later, his father's voice rose above the others. "Mensit, you coming with us, or are you waiting for the next group?" "I'm on the list with you. Told my wife I'd keep an eye on your old bones." The men laughed. Boots thudded, gears shifted, the wagon jolted forward again, onto the docks this time. Cemil stayed quiet, even when the world around him changed, even when the sea groaned beneath the boards and the creak of wood gave way to the steel of the ship. By nightfall, they were underway, bound for Gallipoli, and Cemil was going with them. He did not know how long they had been at sea. Cemil had tried to stay still, curled beneath the tarp at the back of the supply wagon, but the rocking wouldn't stop. It was worse than any cart or wagon he'd ever ridden. Worse than the olive harvest swings. Worse than sleeping on a boat on the lake. This was different. Constant. Rolling. Deep in his belly and his head. His stomach turned. He swallowed hard, pressed his forehead to the wood, but it only made it worse. The sour taste crept up his throat. Sweat prickled on his neck. He couldn't take it any more. Clutching his middle, Cemil slipped out from under the tarp, stumbled across the narrow deck, and lunged towards the railing just in time to retch over the side. A soldier's voice rang out from somewhere behind him. "Poor bastard! Sea's got him good." Another laugh followed. "That's what happens when you eat rations cold." But then the voices shifted. "Wait, who is that? Is that a kid?" The laughter died. Cemil wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, blinking up into the fading sunlight. A half circle of men had formed around him. Boots, belts, bayonets, faces, some amused, some confused. And then, one that wasn't either. His father pushed through the circle, eyes locked on Cemil. Not angry, not surprised, just tired. Cemil. The name landed like a stone. Cemil straightened, wiped his face again, stood tall as he could, opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came. His father stepped closer. "You couldn't let me go alone." It wasn't a question. Cemil shook his head. Some of the soldiers looked between them. A few chuckled again, but this time with something like respect. One muttered, "Well, what do we do now?" He watched as his father got to one knee. "When we land, we will put him on a boat back. I'll have him taken home." Cemil felt a tear forming in his eyes. "Baba, no, I want to stay with you." His father took a deep breath. "That's not possible, my son. War is no place for children." "It's no place for anyone, really," another soldier interjected. The rest nodded and grunted in agreement. Cemil looked around the circle of men, their faces rough with salt and sun, some still smiling faintly, others solemn now. He turned back to his father. "I can help," he said, voice shaking but steady. His father looked away for a moment, jaw tightening. The ship rocked again, and the deck groaned beneath them. "And how can you help us?" "You snuck onto a military wagon," Baba said quietly. "You crossed half the province hiding under a tarp, and now you're here, standing on the deck of a warship. You think that proves something?" Cemil hesitated. "Yes." His father sighed, the kind of sigh that carries more than breath. Weariness, worry, resignation. Another soldier leaned in, arms crossed. "He's got fire. Might be that's useful. We're short on runners and he is light on his feet." Cemil watched as his father shot the man an angry glance. After a moment, a look of realization, possibly agreement, crossed his face. He reached out and placed a hand on Cemil's shoulder. Not harsh, not angry, just heavy. "You listen to every word I say. You run when I tell you. You stop when I tell you. You do nothing on your own. Do you understand?" Cemil nodded so hard it almost knocked the tears loose. "Yes, Papa." His father straightened. "Then stay close and pray the wind favors us." The group began to scatter, muttering about boys with bigger hearts than boots, and Cemil, chest still rising with shallow breaths, wiped his eyes one last time and followed his father across the deck towards the war ahead. The sun had not fully risen when Cemil's name was called. He was crouched behind a broken crate near the trench wall, chewing on a piece of stale bread when his father waved him over. The dim morning light filtered through a haze of smoke, dust, and sea salt. "Lieutenant needs someone fast," Baba said. "The ammo crates at the forward dump didn't come through last night. We're nearly dry." Cemil stood, brushing crumbs from his tunic. "I can go." His father didn't answer at first, just looked at him. Really looked. "You remember the path?" Cemil nodded. "Follow the wall until it bends east. Cut through the wash, over the rise. The supply trench is behind that burned olive grove." Baba pulled a small scrap of folded paper from his vest and handed it over. "Show this to the quartermaster. Don't lose it." Then he knelt, his eyes level with Cemil's. "You move like a bird, not like a goat. Fast, light, no stopping, no wandering. If you hear gunfire, keep low. If you hear shouting, run faster." Cemil swallowed hard. "Yes, Baba." His father rested a hand briefly on his head, fingers rough with grit. "Go." Cemil darted towards the trench mouth, the note pressed flat against his chest. He passed the others, faces caked in smoke, bayonets slung low. No one stopped him. He was already a part of the machine now, small but moving. Necessary. The path to the supply trench was not far, but to Cemil it stretched like a lifetime. The mud sucked at his boots. Rifle cracks echoed in the hills. Somewhere ahead, a whistle shrieked and was silenced just as quickly. He didn't stop, not even when his shell screamed overhead and burst behind the hill, shaking the ground beneath him. He ran, because his father had told him to, because the men needed bullets, because he could. He reached the edge of the supply trench, breath ragged in his chest. Ducking low beneath a tangle of sandbags, he scanned the crowded trench until he spotted the quartermaster, an older man with a clipboard and a voice that cut through the din. Cemil pushed through the cluster of soldiers and held out the folded note with both hands. The quartermaster barely looked at him before snatching the note from his hand. His eyes scanned the message quickly, and then he was already shouting over his shoulder. "Forward trench to the west needs ammo. Move now!" Around them, the trench sprang to life. Men dropped what they were doing, hoisting crates of ammunition under their shoulders, shouting to one another as they scrambled into motion. The quartermaster looked down at Cemil, gave his shoulder a firm pat. "Good job, kid. We got it from here." Cemil nodded, but he didn't move. Not at first. As the soldiers hurried past him, heading back towards the front, towards his father, Cemil found himself trailing after them, his small feet keeping pace with boots much larger than his own. Over the next month, Cemil became a familiar face in the trenches, darting between dugouts and foxholes, slipping past shattered trees and craters, carrying messages tucked into his waistband or clenched in his fist. The soldiers came to know him by name, or at least by nod, and even the gruffest among them started to offer scraps of bread or a quick ruffle of his hair when he passed. Mostly, though, he stayed near his father. As a captain, Baba spent more time directing movements than firing shots. His days filled with strategy and shouting over gunfire rather than hand-to-hand combat. Cemil often sat nearby, eyes sharp, listening as orders were barked and maps redrawn in the dirt. When needed, he ran. When not, he waited, watching, learning, staying close. In the quiet moments, when the guns fell silent for a breath, Baba would sometimes glance over and give a nod. That was enough for Cemil. It meant he was where he was supposed to be. The shelling had been steady for hours, but now it had changed. The rhythm was different, faster, heavier, more precise. Baba knew the sound well. The enemy had found their range, or worse, they had brought new artillery to the line. Cemil sat close by, crouched near the dugout wall, holding a note from one of the sergeants. He flinched when the next shell struck closer than any before. The ground lifted. Cemil looked up at the roof of the dugout as dust filled the air and the candlelight flickered. Baba crossed the dugout in 2 steps. He grabbed Cemil's arm. "Up, now!" and dragged him towards the dugout entrance. They burst from the dugout just seconds before it collapsed on itself, a cloud of timber, dirt, and smoke curling into the sky. Cemil stumbled, coughing. Baba held him steady and looked over the trench wall. His face tightened. "They're coming," he muttered. "Too many of them." Then, without hesitation, he turned Cemil by the shoulders and gave him a hard push towards the rear trench. "Go! Now!" "Baba! Go! Find command! Tell them we need reinforcements!" "Now!" Cemil stared at him, eyes wide, welling, but he nodded. He turned and ran. Behind him, the world unraveled. He ran through a storm. Men shouting, shells bursting. The air so thick with smoke it tasted like blood and iron. He didn't look back. He couldn't. When he finally reached the command trench, he was gasping, his boots sliding in mud. A major turned towards him, startled. "My father's trench," Cemil said, panting. "They're under attack. They need help now." The major took one look at the boy, then up into the darkening sky in the distance. He then waved over a runner. "Get them ready. Move." He looked on as the runner disappeared into the distance. He stepped up to the edge of the trench, gripped the mud-caked ledge, and peered out towards the place he'd just come from. Flames, smoke, black clouds rising like ghosts. His legs moved on their own. He climbed out of the trench and walked, slowly, numb, towards the fire, toward the ruin, toward the place where he had left his father behind. The sounds were far off now, muffled, like he was under water. He stepped through churned mud and ash, past broken crates and torn sandbags, past things he couldn't look at too closely. His feet stopped when he could go no further. There was nothing left. He dropped to his knees. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just stared at the black smoke, the fractured ground, the silence that had swallowed the place where his father once stood. Then, a shape, a figure moving through the haze. Cemil blinked. The smoke parted just enough for him to see the limp, the bloodied sleeve, the familiar shape of a man still holding his left arm close, jaw clenched against pain. His father, alive. His Baba stepped forward, slowly but steady, and knelt beside him. "Cemil," he said, his voice hoarse. "Are you all right?" Cemil couldn't speak. His mouth opened, but nothing came. His father placed a hand, dirty, shaking, but warm, on his shoulder. "It's time to go home, son," he said softly. "I'm done with this war." This has been World War I Stories, Tales Beyond the Trenches. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show wherever you find this podcast, and don't forget to throw us a comment and a rating. We are on Facebook. Just search and like the official World War I Stories page. You can also join me on Blue Sky, where I go by the handle WW1stories_HennyB. World War I Stories is now featured on Rabbit in Red Radio, with new episodes streaming Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. They also have all episodes available on demand. Visit Rabbit in Red Radio for this and many other independent podcasts. And last but not least, would you like your name read on the show? Become a producer by contributing to our Patreon at patreon.com/World War I Stories. I'm very grateful to everyone who downloads and listens to this show. I'm Henny B, and see you next time on World War I Stories.